Hello crafty friends, welcome to another clean and simple card making video. Today we're going to be doing some more heat embossing, but we're also going to be making a shaker card. To start with, I've got a panel of smooth white card here that I've cut with a stitched rectangle die. I've also got this floral line work stamp and its coordinating die, and I'm going to use the die to cut an aperture in the front of my panel. So I'm going to place it where I want it and hold it in place with a little bit of washi tape and run it through my die cutting machine. So there's my aperture for my shaker, and I'm going to back this with a piece of acetate, but before I do that I'm going to stamp my flower on this and heat emboss it. So I'll put my acetate in my stamp positioner. I always like to use a stamp positioner when stamping on acetate because acetate's really slippery, and if I use an acrylic block there's a chance I'm gonna smudge my image, but with this it works really well. So I'm going to pop that in the middle down the bottom of this piece of acetate because I'm actually going to cut this down, so it doesn't really matter where I stamp on it. I'm going to treat it with anti-static powder to remove any static or greasy fingerprints that might attract embossing powder, and I'll ink up my stamp with some embossing ink. And if I tilt that, I can check to see if it's stamped well. I think I need to press down a bit more over here. Yep, that's worked. And for my embossing powder, I'm going to use Wow Metallic Copper Superfine and sprinkle it over my image. Tap it. Oh my goodness, look at that static. I think most of that is on the back. So I'm going to go over the back with my anti-static powder tool to clean that off. I'm going to give it a little huff, and that's got rid of most of that staticky powder. And then I'm going to just brush off as much of that staticky powder as possible. Again, I can go over the back. I'm not too concerned as long as the edge of the image itself is crisp, because most of this acetate is not going to appear on my card. So this is heat resistant acetate, but I'm still going to heat my heat tool up really well before I heat the acetate, and I'm going to keep it moving so it doesn't warp it at all. So there's ever such a slight warping of the acetate, but it looks fine other than that. And now it's cooled and set, I'm going to dust over the image to get rid of any sort of talcum powder that's still hanging around, front and back. And now that is ready to go behind my aperture. Because this is such a wobbly line, I'm using a Zig two-way glue pen to draw around the edge. When this dries, it goes tacky, so it will help the card to stick to the acetate and not lift off. I'm also going to put some double-sided tape around here, and this is just to hold the acetate in place. So I'll get that lined up and stuck down. So now that's stuck to the back, you can just cut off the excess acetate with a pair of scissors. And I'm going to take some 1mm deep foam tape, double it up so it's 2mm deep, and back my front panel with that so that I've got space to put my shaker pieces. So I'm actually going to slice it in half lengthways because I don't need it quite so wide, and then go round the aperture and the edge of the card. So the back is covered in tape. It's going to go on my card like that, but I want to put a bit of colour behind it. So I'm thinking maybe a blush of green, a blush of maybe orange or yellow. So I've got a scrap of white card here, and I'm going to mark where the edge of the image is roughly. Maybe add a bit of green around the leaves here, and then a bit of, let's go yellow honey, wild honey, I think. So we'll see how this turns out. So I've got some bundled sage. Might have been better with my finger daubers for this, but we'll see. So bundled sage and wild honey. Let's have a look what shows through. Yeah, I think that's fine. So before I take the release paper off the tape, I'm going to dust the inside with anti-static powder. It should take the sticky off the sides of the tape and prevent the shaker bits from sticking to the tape. So now I'm going to take the tape release paper off. Apologies for the annoying background noise. There's always someone using power tools somewhere. And for my shaker bits, I'm going to use chunky glitter. And I'll put it here. I don't need an awful lot because you're not going to see much. It's just for a bit of background sparkle. And if I put it on like that, then I can get this lined up over my colourful card. And hopefully that glitter is nicely sealed in there. I'll probably put too much. And now I can cut off the excess card, angling my scissors underneath the panel so that I can make sure that cut line is hidden. I do seem to have a little gap through which glitter is escaping. I think there's a bit where I didn't quite double up the tape properly. So I'm going to put some glue on this bit of card, fold it in half so it's double layered, add some glue to either side and hopefully plug the hole. This is quite chunky glitter, so should be alright if there is a little bit of a gap still. It shouldn't escape from that. Alright, I think we've done it. I think I've plugged the hole. And now that is ready to go on a card. But I want to give it a bit more pop. I think the card needs a little bit of something. So I've got another bit of scrap card here. I'm just thinking maybe the green. Create a border of green. And I'm going to use this die, which is the next size up from the one that I used to cut out the panel with. We'll add a bit more green to get some dark colour in those stitches. Gives it a bit of extra definition. And I'm wondering about edging it slightly in some copper embossing powder. Give it a good going over with the talcum powder to dry that ink. And I'll press this down into this embossing ink pad, sprinkle over that super fine again. I can always brush off any bits that I don't like. And now I'll heat that with my heat tool. So I'll put some tape runner on the back of that and I can add it to my card front. This is going to have a little white border all the way around, like that. I'll chop off that little bit there. And now this can get some tape runner and we can pop that in there like that. So I'm really liking this. I'm not sure how well you can see this on video because you kind of need to tilt it to the light to get the full effect of the heat embossing on the acetate. I will take some close-up shots for you and put them at the end of the video. Now we need a sentiment. So this sentiment comes from the freebie sentiments that you can download from a link in this video's description. I've die cut it out using a stitched banner die and I'll adhere it with some high-tack white glue. Could pop it up there, but it could pop it down here. I'm thinking up here. I think it needs a bit of balance. So we'll pop it right up there in the corner. So we've got a diagonal going on here. I'm thinking I want a few small copper dots on my card front around the flower just to bring in a little bit of energy. So I'm going to colour this or cover it with the embossing ink, shake over some of the superfine copper. I'm going to heat that from behind to get a nice smooth finish hopefully. I'm going to run it through my die cutting machine with this teeny tiny little dot die and I'll keep any that I don't use in my pot of dots. Just add some teeny tiny little dots of matte gel medium. This will dry matte, so if any does seep out from underneath my dots, it shouldn't be visible. And I've got a wax tip dual nail art picker upper thing. I always find if I just rub it on my hand, it kind of warms up the wax a little bit, makes it easier to pick things up. as long as they're not sitting in glue like those three are. Right, I think those little dots have brought the card alive for me now, and we've got some movement from the shaker as well, and a little flash of orange. I'm not sure whether this qualifies as clean and simple anymore. We do have some white space, but we've got quite a few layers. We've got a complicated shaker going on, but we do have clean lines and a limited colour palette. So I think this might be a borderline case. Do stick around for the close-up photos, and if this video has given you any ideas at all, please do let me know in the comments and leave a thumbs up. And if you want to see more from me, do subscribe and ring the notification bell. I'll see you back here very soon for another video. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.